pay any real attention to financials. I didn't do anything you're supposed to do as a business person, but I did learn that I loved creating stuff and that I'm quite good at it. I learned that I really, really love the idea of running a business, but some of the more administration side is not my area. But I did learn the biggest thing, which was that a normal business is not for me. So both of these businesses lacked a purpose. So that was something beyond making a profit. There was no point other than making money, and money has never been the most important thing to me. And I know that sounds twee, but it hasn't. So the third time around, I approached the idea of running a business with more thought. I started back at university to give myself some time to clear my head, thought about what was important to me, and really it was obvious from day one. As a child, I've always said I want to save the world. Everyone asked me what I wanted to do. As a kid, I had no idea what I was saving it from. I don't think I knew any of the world's problems, but I've always wanted to do something that protected the environment in particular, because I've always been animalistic. So the important thing to me is to have a positive impact on the environment and the animals within it. So how can I tailor my skills, my very few skills, towards that? So a few days after I'd been back at university, I stopped running and sold these businesses, came up with the idea for Ethique, which is the world's most sustainable cosmetics company. A company that did good through a product, but also operated in the most ethical, generous, giving way possible, but while still being financially stable, which is very important. So back in 2012, I knew that environmental issues were piling up. So climate change is the most pressing concern. Back then, it was the most pressing concern, it still is. But others such as plastic pollution, mass extinction, deforestation, and habitat loss were becoming. They weren't becoming more of a problem. They were already a significant problem, but we were becoming more aware of them. I knew that plastic was streaming into our oceans and collecting in massive patches in the ocean, and that there was a doubt we will ever get it out. I knew that 40% of all plastic ever made just comes from product packaging and is single use, and I think that's obscene. It's used once to protect or contain a product, and then it's binned. What an incredible waste of resources. I knew that recycling is nowhere near the solution so many people think it is, and that we've only ever managed to recycle 9% of all of the plastic we've ever made worldwide. And I knew that on average, this is a New Zealand statistic, but extrapolated out to 21 million people, I knew that on average New Zealanders use 50 million plastic bottles every year just for personal care, shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. And those are some pretty horrifying statistics. So, a typical shampoo, right, is about 70, can go up to 80% water, whereas a conditioner is 90 to 95% water. Doesn't it seem a little bit odd to make a product that is mostly water, package it in plastic, and then ship it around the world to customers who use it in a room filled with water? It's farcical. So that's why I created Ethique, which is all about getting rid of the bottle in favour of bars. So they're not to be confused with soap. Everyone says, oh yeah, it's just soap, it's surely, but it's not. And it's not something I want to belabor or to go on about, but soap is for cleaning, and that's a fabulous product, but it isn't really useful for moisturising, for example. So our bars are literally what you would get in a bottle, but they're just clean, just like a water removed. So I call Ethique the world's most sustainable company, cosmetics company, for a variety of reasons. Number one, of course, is that we exist to rid the world of plastic bottles. So far, we've saved over 7 million. It's closer to 8 now. This figure keeps changing fast, and we can update this presentation. We do this by producing everything, almost everything you can find in your bathroom and some of your household with bars. Get rid of the plastic. It's a really simple philosophy, really. So we package them in compostable packaging, so they're completely waste-free. With the box, you can pop it in the garden, bury it in your plant pots or your green bin or whatever, and it will biodegrade, it will compost, and be food for the plants and microbes and create better soil. So it's a proper circular product, which is what every product should aim towards as much as humanly possible over the next few years. But our products, of course, are cruelty-free, vegan. Everything is made of sustainable and naturally derived ingredients, and we are certified palm oil-free by one of your Australian certifiers, Orangutan Alliance. Now, not too many people know the problems with palm oil. It is environmentally devastating, and unfortunately, the cosmetics industry, as are most other industries, consumer products, it's absolutely riddled with it because it's so efficient. They can make so much palm oil from a smaller amount of trees, and the next closest oil, which is coconut oil, which is sort of 1/4 as efficient. So I understand why they use it. But the problem is, because we have become so reliant on it, it's become this massive monoculture around Indonesia, Malaysia, and now parts of Africa. And it's destroying livelihoods, it's destroying the environment. It is a horrific industry that is very under-managed. There are steps in place to try and make it better, but as it stands, it is not something I'm interested in using. So that's why we are certified palm oil free. And I think we're one of only about 3 or 4 other cosmetics companies, because it's so hard to get it out of the product. And everything from surfactants, which make things foam, to your emulsifiers, which bind things together, and it's just a nightmare. But really, our products, whilst they are as environmentally friendly as possible, that is not the way to be a truly sustainable business. To be truly ethical, you must operate your business as sustainable. So we have a whole lot of values around how we operate as well. So number 1 is that we are living wage certified. In New Zealand, this is done by a non-governmental organisation, but it means everybody gets paid at least over 21. I think it's 21.70 per hour. Our team are all above that, of course. At minimum, a living wage. Surely, in today's day and age, if the business can't afford to pay a living wage, and look, okay, present prices aside, but if a business can't afford a living wage, I truly believe they need to look at how they operate. Employees deserve to be paid a fair wage so that they can live. Your team are the biggest asset that your business has, and without people you work with, you are nothing. So you need to look after them. Another facet of looking after people is our supply chain. So a typical business's supply chain is pretty horrific. In particular, cosmetics. Cosmetic industry is rife with child labour, with just hideous waste practices, with chemical pollution, as I mentioned, deforestation, palm oil, those sorts of things. It's not a nice industry, and typically people don't focus too much on the cosmetics industry. But I am finding that a lot of indie brands are actually changing this. Of course, also we're a B Corp, so we're New Zealand's highest scoring B Corp. You should imagine if you're doing this, know what that is, but it's essentially like an ethical health check for your entire business, from how you operate in terms of who owns you, how many women do you have in the business, how many women do you have in the leadership team, how do you source your goods, and your environmental footprint. It's a really all-encompassing certification, and I highly recommend everyone does it. Every business does it, just to see where you sit on that spectrum. It's illuminating. It's very interesting. But not only do we source, sustainably and products naturally, but our supply chain is super important to us, and it's one of my favorite parts of our team. So we work directly with suppliers where we can, and you can see in this photo our last trip to Samoa, where we source all our coconut oil, where they produce the nicest organic virgin coconut oil, which is super delicious, smells amazing, and it is made in small villages all around the country, and then shipped to Apia, which is the capital, and then we work there with the team of women and women of business development who source it for us, and we pay them a fair wage. It is an amazing cooperative, and you already see the change that trade like that can do to places that are trying to get on their feet to developing countries. It is a really nice facet of the business. But we're also working with a couple of others. So we work with a cooperative in Rwanda for our moringa oil, which is a product that was due to be released in a month, but for some reason pushed back due to COVID-19, and should come out in January. And also our cocoa butter comes from a cooperative in the Dominican Republic or Ecuador, depending on the season. It's really nice. And as Ethique grows and as our purchasing power grows, I'm very excited to extend this and go and find genuinely sustainable, genuinely fair places to source these materials. The biggest problem, of course, facing our planet is climate change. Again, current crisis aside. Business, in my opinion, has an enormous part to play in that. I really believe businesses need to be the leaders, and that government will act too slowly. And a lot of businesses like Patagonia or Allbirds are doing phenomenal work. So to our end, we offset all our carbon, and we are actually carbon positive, so climate positive, not carbon positive. So carbon negative, climate positive, so we offset more carbon than we produce, so we have it measured every year, and then we offset it through a variety of methods, so investment in, say, renewable energy. We work with a wonderful organisation called Offset Earth. If you've heard of them, highly recommend you check them out, but they will plant you. They work with locals and indigenous communities around the world in places like Madagascar and Sri Lanka to plant things like mangroves, to reforest areas that have been deforested, and then they will also invest more money in other projects like renewable energy. It's a really nice and very well vetted gold standard organisation. Highly recommend you check them out. They talk a lot about Ethique and the direct relationships we have with our suppliers, and that is definitely one of my favourite parts. But the most important thing to me for Ethique is that we donate 20% of our profit to charity. That's been from day one, and I have been challenged on it many, many, many times by pretty much everyone. So customers typically love it, but shareholders, investors, people within and without the company typically think this is a stupid idea, but I totally disagree. It's so important that businesses give back, and I am delighted that we've stuck to this and we will always stick to this. So we donate 20%. People ask why we don't donate 100% if we're so passionate about this, and the reason is because the other side of the coin is we want to rid the world of plastic bottles, single-use plastic bottles, right? To do this, we need to grow, we need to have impact, and to grow and have impact, unfortunately, it's highly likely that we will need further investment. That further investment will come from investors who, of course, want a return. So there needs to be a balance. We need to be financially sustainable. So companies that don't manage their money will go under, of course. When that happens, they leave suppliers out of pocket, staff without jobs, and investors will lose lots of money. And then, of course, they'll have no impact. And that is the exact opposite of what we are trying to achieve. So to the actual start story. Here I am, 15 years old again. Actually 19. You'll notice the name of the company is a little different. So when I started Ethique, this was the day we just moved into our new factory unit. I started in my kitchen in my flat, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I had those two previous businesses, and I had sold them, but I was still really dabbling in. I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew how to formulate products, and that was where it started and ended, really. You'll see on the right of that photo that there is a packaged product with the name Sorbet, but that's probably the biggest business mistake I made in the first few years. I really liked the name Sorbet. I just thought it sounded sweet and delicious, and I thought that's a good enough name for a cosmetics company. Let's go with that. I will tell you how I funded it in a minute, but very quickly it came to the fore that I could not keep that name. I'll go into that in a minute. So about a year after working in the kitchen, testing products, seeing what people thought of them, whether they liked them, testing on friends, family, no animals, of course, only willing humans. It got a little bit too much in the kitchen. My boyfriend getting pretty fed up with life. There was shampoo on the ceiling and the carpet. It was taking over our lives. So it was sink or swim time. And to help me make the decision, I entered a university competition where I was partnered with a mentor who guided me through a business planning process, and then I had to pitch like a Dragon's Den style thing competition. And we didn't win, which probably was testament to the fact that I was used to be terrified of public speaking. Which sucks, but I think we won in the long run because we asked the only business to standard. So I think that probably counts. The day after that, it gave me the confidence, even though we didn't win, gave me the confidence to go and sign this factory lease. And I consider that moment the day when we became a real proper business. And that mentor actually signed on to be my business partner, injected the first amount of capital into the company, and started injecting his advice as well, most importantly. And he's been an enormous help into growing Ethique where it is. But we ran out of money really quickly. This branding was not up to standard. Retailers weren't interested in stocking the product, and it wasn't because they didn't like the product, it's because the branding. That paper there on the bars at the bottom is actually water soluble. So you run it under the tap. It was the coolest thing, a bit gimmicky to be fair, but it would dissolve under the tap. Fabulous, but wouldn't stand up on the shelf. So we needed to invest in a better look and feel. Now, there was a variety of ways we could do this. I don't like the idea of angel investors. I was terrified of losing control. That hasn't really gone away that much. I'm always still mindful of that. And equity crowdfunding had just been legalised in New Zealand. And a company called Pledge Me had started up. And they had just funded a brewery. I think they had raised $500,000 in about 90 minutes or something mental for beer. And I thought that's interesting. So you've got people all over the country who wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford to invest in companies that are high growth, and can they get behind companies that they love? So I really like that aspect of it, that people who wouldn't ordinarily have access to investment could potentially make a serious return. But you're also, of course, a higher risk for them, so you have to bear that in mind. You're being genuinely honest with everything you say. So we prepared in, I think, 3 weeks. I highly recommend if you ever do anything crowdfunding campaign, you give yourself longer because it wasn't long enough. It was very stressful. We launched the campaign, and in late 2015, in 10 days, we raised over $200,000, which was the most amazing amount of money at that time. It was pretty incredible. So 152 people jumped on board, all from New Zealand. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I don't know how many times you guys have had emails from random people saying such and such has just given you $30,000, but it's not an email you tend to get used to. And it was a very cool time. But there was this great sense of responsibility as well. With that came the change in the name. So a week after we bought, there's 152 shareholders on board who had given us their trust and their money. We then had to go out to them and say, look, this is a real mistake on my part. I didn't check our international trademarks when I named the company. I said to you that we were going to go and build this company in America and Australia, and we can't do that because we can't get trademarks. Totally my fault, but don't worry, we will fix it. So within a week, we had renamed the company to Ethique, which fits better anyway because it means ethical in French, and if nothing else, we're ethical. So I don't think in the long run it was the worst decision. We actually did it again 2 years later in 2017. Now, I really like equity crowdfunding. I've had a lot of comments from people who say, why don't you do a grown-up way of raising capital? We've done that too, but I love equity crowdfunding because not only do you have a team of cheerleaders who are behind you every step of the way, but you're also giving an opportunity to people who probably won't ever be able to afford to invest in high-growth companies because it's typically out of your reach. So we did this time a lot faster. We raised $500,000 in 90 minutes. I would actually miss the whole thing because I was speaking at an event at the time, but it was amazing because I had people in the audience at the Social Enterprise World Forum shouting the total of what we were at me on the stage. So it's a little bit distracting, but it was an incredible experience. So now we have 350 shareholders, and my dream, because of the support they showed us so early in the piece, my dream for them is that we'll be able to pay off their mortgages and genuinely make a difference in their lives as well as everyone else we're trying to impact. So how do we grow? Look, I can't distill this into a 20, 30-minute conversation. It's been a long, bumpy, crazy journey, right? But it's been a very rewarding one. 2012 started, 2015 was first funding. Probably the most exciting moment of my life was 2016, and you'll see a picture of Britney Spears and Ashton Kutcher there. So I was in Hawaii. I was doing a leadership seminar at the Eastwood Centre in Hawaii, and I met a film reporter who just wrote a very small piece in Forbes about being a woman in business. And I was super excited because I thought this would be something that set the world on fire because everybody reads films. And 4 people read it at the end. 4 people read that article on that day that it launched, and I was pretty gutted. It's gone up a little bit more since, but at the time it certainly didn't set the world on fire. But about 2 weeks later, I woke up to an email from a Huffington Post reporter who said, just read out the story on Forbes, really like it, written an article about you on Huffington Post. That was, the world went mental. That was when I checked my emails and my Facebook messages and the company's Facebook messages, and we were just absolutely slammed. It was amazing. We'd sold out of everything, except at that point we didn't track inventory, so we'd oversold everything many, many times over. Just to put it into perspective at that point, we were in a tiny little lab with a team of 3 people manufacturing about 50 bars a day at this point. We were a tiny, minuscule company, and we were now centre stage. We were, that article was shared around the world in a variety of different news places. We were even in a Slovakian newspaper, and of course, I don't know anyone who speaks Slovakian, so I've maybe got to see, hopefully it was positive. But it was crazy, and then it culminated in probably not quite the most exciting day of my life anymore, but it certainly was back then, when my mum texted me at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she said, Britney Spears has shared you on Facebook. And I said, of course she hasn't. That's not how the world works. Britney Spears doesn't just find the world's tiniest cosmetics. But she actually had. And she genuinely shared us on her Facebook page to her, 45 million followers. So that was life-changing. It was a day we spent ultimately dancing around listening to Britney Spears songs and crying because of distress, but all, to be honest, because it was really hard on the team of the 3 of us. We had to write to 98% of those people and say, look, there's no way we'll fulfill this order within the next 6 months. Do you know how many people actually said, we love what you're doing, please keep the money? It was amazing. What it showed was just how passionate people were about a company like this. And I guess that's really where our story comes in. So you can see in those other 2 photos that we are now stocked. We're in about 3,500 retailers around the world in 16 different countries. How did that happen from a small business? And it comes down to having a purpose, I truly believe. So we have that robust purpose, which is to rid the world of plastic oil. And we live our purpose. So everything we do, we consider that environmental piece first. It's not so long ago that I turned down a multi-million-dollar deal in the States, ranging through a big chain of stores, but their one proviso, and I understand why from a systems process they wanted it, but the one proviso was that everything had to be packaged individually in a polybag, plastic bag. And we worked to see if there was a way we could overcome it, and there wasn't. And we said no, because it is not worth creating, there's just nothing worth creating more plastic in this world, and there is nothing worth damaging the brand that would have had far more detrimental impact in the long run than it would ever have for us. And everyone on the team was on board with that decision. It wasn't a difficult one to make. So we're about purpose. We're built on purpose, not about making money, and that is what resonates with customers, and that is why we have grown so fast. I guess don't underestimate the importance of having a human face for the brand too. So a big part of our growth has been our personalization of the brand. So I'm the company spokesperson, as most CEOs are, because people buy from people. They don't buy from big corporates or big companies. They want to know more about the people behind a brand, including the team. So it's really important that you encompass that personal side to the brand. And it's not just one person. A team is so not just one person. It's a whole variety of people. It's made up your whole team. It's really important to build your brand story around that human element. So that really just means that if I was going to have a few tips on business and running a social enterprise, it's making your purpose your first thing that you think about in the morning. And it's not saying you have to have some brand purpose about really bottles or saving a community or ending poverty. It doesn't have to be enormous, but it has to be something that's outside making money, something that you can tell your customers about, your staff about, your team about, so that they can get excited about it, because then they are more productive. If you just talk on, you just go on and on about selling the product, no one cares. No one cares anymore. You need to have something that people care about. It can be anything that matters to you. Computer is slow. Now, I do quite a lot of mentoring, and I love doing it. And the first question I always ask is, why would I buy your product versus your competitors? And to be honest, there's very few genuinely brand new businesses out there. There might be differences that are obvious to you, but they are not obvious to the consumer. And I see founder after founder after founder, and even worse, team after team after team, who can't say why I should buy their product and not the competitor. So if you can't say it, how is your customer going to be able to tell? How would your customer have any idea? You have to make the choice easy. So whether it's a a product quality like being plastic free, or if it's a company quality like having a donation scheme or being a living wage employer, something that people will get behind. You need to have that difference, and it's genuinely surprising how many companies don't have it. And this is a tip I get a lot, or a question I get a lot, is people say, oh, you've done so well so fast, but don't be fooled. There are so many brands out there that seem to have gone from zero to up here, and they call them unicorns, and it's not really true. These guys have got beautiful branding, hordes of fans, it seems to have happened to them overnight, but don't get discouraged by this, because there's probably been 10, 20 years in the making of that company. There's been hundreds of people who are paid millions of dollars to get that company where it is. Building a business is hours and hours and hours and long, long days and hard work and tough decisions, and it's really difficult. And those journeys you see that are seemingly easy and skyrocketing are usually falsified. They are spun by PR, and it's not to mislead you. It is to mislead you, but it's not to mislead you in a bad way. But it's also not true. So you shouldn't be discouraged if you aren't seeing the immediate success. Business takes a long time, whether it's building your personal business or building someone else's. It takes a long, long time, but it is 100% worth it. It is the best thing that I have ever done. And the impact that we've achieved is the best thing that I will ever achieve, really. So, I think we can now go back to see me. I have a few questions. So, please, if you have questions, you can ask them in the Q&A, and I will try and get to them. So, number one was which charities do I donate to and why? Do we donate to and why? We have 3 pillars, so it is quite difficult to choose because there's so many worthy charities out there. It is really difficult to choose, and we have an awful lot of people who ask us or approach us every day and say, would you support this, and would you support this community event? So we kind of have it split to 2 boxes. So one is our long-term partnerships, and those are the ones we donate a lot more money to, or whatever it is they need, whether it's advice or product or whatever. And then there are those one-offs. So we treat them separately. So typically our marketing team will deal with the one-offs, and they approach them once a month. They make sure that the impact that community organisation is real, and then they deal with that. For the larger partnerships, they have to fall within 3 sort of pillars. So one is animal welfare, and that's more than anything, that's because that's important to me, and it's important to the team. It's not necessarily in line with the team's core values of environmental protection per se, but animal welfare is important to me and the rest of us. So that's a big part of it. The second piece, of course, is environmental conservation and protection. So those along the lines of Wildlife Warriors, who you guys may have heard of. That's the charity run by the Irwins from Australia Zoo. So they're a big partner of ours. Rainforest Trust, those sorts of places that actually have genuine impact in environmental protection and conservation. We think we need them more than ever. And then the third concept is pillar is community education. So I truly believe that if we are going to change the world, you need to tell people, you need to educate people, get them on board. And that's not berating people, it's not telling them the choices they're making are bad choices. It's just educating them to see why what they are doing or what they are not doing is less than ideal, and giving them different alternatives. So that's how we approach it. This year, because it's become quite a bit more money as we've grown, we are looking at implementing the same as for a while, but it keeps being delayed because of worldwide crises. But we are implementing a foundation to administer this separately from Ethique. So we'll be looking at that impact really, really seriously to ensure that those organisations we work with are making the best they can with that money. Number 2 question: how have I managed to build and scale a viable business without compromising ethics and values and losing touch with the confidence of your products? I get this question a lot, and I really quite like it because it's actually an easy one to answer. It's never been a problem. People assume that and we get this comment quite frequently too, is people assume as you grow, you become evil, you become this big, mean corporation. But really, hasn't come up. I gave you the example earlier of the retail partnership in America and turning it down, and that wasn't a tough decision for us. I understand why it would have been a tough decision for companies who perhaps are struggling financially or who have been waiting for that big break into the United States. But our core guiding philosophy is the environmental protection. That is what we live and die by. So whenever we come up with a decision or whenever we implement a new facet for this, is the first thing we decide is how do we measure this against what is important to us. Is it going to impact the environment? Of course it is. Everything impacts the environment. But can we do it in a way that is minimal or has a positive net effect? And then we look at how will it affect the team? How will it affect our customers? How will it affect the rest of the business? So we always approach it from an environmental standpoint first. And that may seem idealistic, and I have been called very idealistic and out of touch sometimes. But you know what? It's working really quite well for us. Next question. How do you make your ethical narrative stand out in a world of commoditized retail products? That's a good question, because it is difficult. And unfortunately, the world is becoming more and more brainwashed because bigger corporations are absolutely seeing the value in this kind of narrative, because consumers want something better. 84% of millennials that make decisions based on these social and environmental certifications and considerations of their brands. I mean, that's an enormous statistic. It's great. It's very positive for the future of the world too. It is difficult. It is getting increasingly difficult, but the key to that is staying genuine and constant. We are lucky because we have that first mover advantage to a degree. We were doing this quite a lot before any other company. We're constantly adding to our ethics. We're not perfect. You can never be perfect. There's always something you can improve on. The offset earth piece I was talking about earlier, so the carbon offset through the forestry planting in Madagascar. We're going to be doing it for 2 weeks. We've already planted 4,500 trees. You know, that's something we weren't doing last year, and it has already made an impact. So you can always do something better. And I think having those constant improvements helps you stand out. Lots of companies will do one thing and they will ride on that for a long, long time. Maybe if it's an enormous thing, that's great, but consumers can see through these things. You need to be genuine. You need to be authentic about what it is you do, and customers will see it. Unfortunately, it is a harder, slower road, but it also gives PR companies and the press something to talk about if you do have those standpoints in your business. How hard is it to make products without palm oil? Well, it's a nightmare, to be perfectly honest. There's sort of two facets. So number one is formulation. Formulating products, you are wiping 90% of your actives or your emulsifiers or surfactants, which are foaming agents. You know, you're wiping most of them off your formulation list because they're almost all made of palm oil. So you've got to find palm oil free those, which is really useful in having really good relationship with suppliers. Now, my suppliers know not to even bother approaching me if it's not palm oil free, because it'll be the first question I have. So they already have declarations from manufacturers for me to prove it. So that is very difficult. The other issue is the fact that it then changes. So you usually make something like a fatty alcohol from a variety of different oils, so rice bran, or you can even make it from ethylene, which typically comes from sugar. You can make it from a variety of different areas, but that will change seasonally. So you've got to find an ingredient that is guaranteed to only ever be made from palm-free sources. So it is really difficult. It involves a lot of paperwork and a lot of chasing, but much like everything else we do, it is something that we are very committed to. And so our suppliers, because of that, because they know if they were to fail us on that, then we would not use them anymore, shall we say. It's difficult, but it's worth it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that offline if people are trying to find sources of palm-free stuff. I'm happy to pass them along where I can. What have been the biggest plastic challenges? I guess you mean plastic-free challenges. This will probably come down to international freight. There's all sorts of requirements, and frankly, a lot of them seem ridiculous. Why on earth do things need to be wrapped in 3 layers of plastic to seal out the window if they're already in it being metal? tub. You know, there's some throwbacks from the way we used to do things that have unfortunately they've never been changed. And I find that working with retailers and with warehouses, you can eventually change these, but it isn't overnight. For example, one of the biggest 3PL warehouses in the USA, they shipped our product plastic free, but they didn't ship anyone else's, and it has been pushed back slightly due to COVID-19, but they have committed to changing their entire warehouse, where they send out 27,000 parcels a day. Your entire warehouse is going plastic free, and that's awesome because that's a huge impact. And that's nothing to do with us, but it's simply us asking the question and showing that it's possible made them think, oh, that's totally something we can roll out for other companies. That's awesome. Cost is another issue. Plastic-free packaging alternatives are vastly more expensive. You can get a plastic bottle, depending on bulk, you can get a plastic bottle for less than $1. You certainly can't get a cardboard box anywhere near that, particularly if it's printed in New Zealand and compostable and proper petrochemical-free dyes. The cost is another issue, but again, it is what it is and it's worth doing. Last question. Some people have doubts that soap bars are completely palm oil free. Can you bring some light into this? As consumers, how can we make sure that they are? Now, I know for an absolute fact of at least 3 companies who either believe their product to be palm free or know that they're not, and I appreciate it's difficult, but they say they are. Unfortunately, a lot of suppliers are misinformed on this. So the best way for a consumer to know is to look for certified products. So I really highly recommend Earrings and Alliance. There are a couple more certification companies, but I'm really sorry their names elude me at the moment. But look for certifications because they not only look for declarations, but they go and approach manufacturers and they go and make sure that what that company is using is actually oil free. It is an industry that is full of misinformation because it's still relatively unknown. Yeah, it's a difficult one, unfortunately, and all I can say is encourage your brands to go and get certified if they can. That is the last question that you guys have for me from what I can see. Jennifer?
Thank you, Brianne. I've got a question, if I may, to add too. Would you, crowdfunding, in terms of, it certainly raised a lot of money for you at the time. Do you, how much do you think that expanded, the network of your potential, your marketing potential, I guess? Because there's really 2 reasons to crowdfund, isn't there? Finance and really the crowd.
Absolutely, definitely. So the first time we did it, didn't really fathom the depths of the marketing we get from it, but we not only received lots of press about it, we also got that extended to 152 people, and then their extended friends and family who then talked about it. So you've got brand ambassadors who you don't have to pay, which is awesome, who are passionate about your brand, but their marketing went far beyond that in terms of press. But that really came to the fore in the second raise when with the $500,000, and I think it was probably helped because I was talking to 2,000 people at the time, so they became aware of something they wouldn't have been aware of. Crowdfunding is phenomenally good for raising your profile, but I would probably caution you with one aspect of that. If you are looking at doing a crowdfunding raise, but then say in a year's time you want to do a big raise with a VC or a PE fund, they don't like it. I think that the reasons they don't like it are a little old-fashioned because they worry about the difficulties of having a large cap table. But frankly, it's never really caused us concern. We do have very supportive shareholders. We obviously get questions from them. That's not a problem. But it's quite easily manageable as long as you structure it the right way. So it's very important to get regular advice if you're doing a crowdfunding range and ensure that it is a manageable system. And I know that some companies have got themselves into trouble, but without question, the marketing, I don't think we would be as well known in New Zealand as we are if we've done a typical capital raise.
Thanks, Brianne. And just on that point, I know there's quite a few other eco businesses joining us today. What's your view on, I mean, equity crowdfunding was in New Zealand a long time before Australia, actually, because the finance laws obviously are different. But do you have a view that you'd like to share with businesses on pure crowdfunding versus equity crowdfunding? Traditional crowdfunding, I mean, you know, product.
Yeah, so project. I don't want to have any judgment at all. And a lot of businesses have started with project crowdfunding, which is where you buy a product like a pre-release product, and really that sort of style of operating a business has been around a lot longer. Crowdfunding is operating in a different way. And I think if you are a passionate founder and you've got a great new idea and people want to back it, that's bad, right? That's really good. Where I don't think it's appropriate is where the business is slightly more established and they have other options for crowdfunding. I also have seen it go wrong. I've seen a lot of businesses who don't actually factor in the costs, so they end up, and this happens a lot, you can read all about it on the internet, loads and loads of case studies where people have raised far less money than it has cost them to run the campaign and to then ship those products out. I have backed 4 campaigns on Kickstarter. Not a single one they've been successful in raising money, never seen a product. I think it is a way for people to potentially, look, there's lots and lots of good people doing it out there, but there's also a lot of people who are not, and they've got slightly less ideal ethics, or things don't go right for them. I believe a better process is a structured equity campaign if possible, because you get shareholders who you are accountable to, and you feel this deep responsibility because they've given you money, and you feel, you know, you have to look after them. For all you know, that's their house deposit you're looking after. You had those people as brand investors for a longer time. You raise more money, and you don't have to worry about the logistical nightmare, which is sorting out the product and getting that all to them within however long. I've not seen many project campaigns done very well. I think is it the Dollar Shave Club, the one that started that way? I could be wrong, and I do apologise if I am, but they would be an example of someone who's done it well.
It's great.
But I believe you should give people something.
Sure.
I believe you should give them shares.
Brianne, it looks like there's one more question from someone asking you to summarise key insights.
Okay.
That'd be a great place to hand off to James on, who I might just let in to the room as well.
Perfect. Okay, if I had to boil it down to the top 3, the reason Ethique is so successful is because we have a purpose and we tell it well. Everything we do is just to save the world. Oh gosh, it sounds really grandiose and stupid, doesn't it? But it really is. Everything we do is for the good of the planet, and that includes the people and the animals on it. And telling that story is fundamentally important, and that is why we've been as successful as we are. Probably something I haven't touched on, but I do talk about quite a lot, is how important your team is. If you're a sole founder, then it doesn't apply so much to you, but I cannot stress how amazing a difference a good team member will make. It could just be 1, it could be 5. I have a phenomenal team of 11, and they're all very different. I used to subscribe to the idea that everybody needed to think like me, and I was the person who knew the best about my brand in the business because I am my brand, right? And to a degree that is true. It's just me in business form, but I'm not the only person who thinks like that, and it's stupid and arrogant for me to have ever thought that way. But I was really not excited about hiring people who didn't think like me, because I thought, no, they'll just slow us down. No, it will never work. They won't think like that. And it's so far from the truth. People who think differently to me, which is pretty much everyone in the company, because you don't want another me because I'm annoying as, they have made the most amazing difference. Just one hire, and we started exporting to the USA. Another hire, and now our systems work. You know, it's one person makes all the difference, and the more good people you get in a team, far out.
That's a great question.
I like to have 3 insights. I also haven't talked about this so much either, so I do apologize if I summarize insights, not just give you something else to think about, which is probably really annoying. But you will come across loads of people who are super experienced, or they have built a brand and sold it, or they've done something you consider very impressive, and I've no doubt they're very impressive, and they will give you advice, and you will think, well, that's not what I I think we should do. In fact, I fundamentally don't want to do it. I feel like that's wrong to do that. But they know what they're talking about, so they must be right because they've done it before. And I would caution you against that. I see a lot of people, and I did it myself a lot, was I went against what I fundamentally, like deep in my gut, felt was right, because that is what people with more experience suggested. I don't regret those decisions now because, again, the company wouldn't be where it is, but I probably would approach those situations now differently. I would back myself. Whilst I don't have the experience, I don't have the knowledge that lots of my wonderful advisors do, that doesn't necessarily mean they should have carte blanche over your business.
Certainly great advice too when you are building a business from a very young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never really worked in a corporate or in any kind of structure. It's something you have to learn of someone else that doesn't necessarily come naturally. You know, I want to be involved as much of my business as possible, and it's physically not possible anymore. I know we'll just slow things down and hold things up, and where I think I'm being useful, I'm actually just making a mess. So you do have to really rely on other people, and that's where that team and trust.
Thank you. And James, do you have a question for Brianne before we let her go and hand over to you?
I probably would like to just congratulate Brianne on the perseverance of building a brand on many sort of stepping stones, and I think what you'll find from any company that's going through this wave of growth and that strategy, it's what you've learned to get the footsteps in place to get where you are today. It's like Ethique just didn't pop up overnight, but you look at those steps and companies that actually are making profit with purpose and doing things in the right way. I just want to probably say congrats and well done on an amazing journey.
Thank you, and right back at you. Because I know we often share a lot of partners internationally. So. Yeah, so
it's nice. So it'll be good to catch up as well. But no, congrats on a great journey. Hard one.
A lot of fun. Hard one for sure. Yeah. Like I said, it's not all like that.
Yeah.
Actually, on that point, if I could just check in with both of you, you're both across the US, Europe, or Brianne, you first. Sorry, if you don't mind, James. Sorry. Where are you in the world now?
UK, US, parts of Europe, like the Netherlands, Spain, parts of Asia like Japan, Australia, obviously. And we are further exploring, believe it or not, we were due to launch in Hong Kong and Singapore in February.
Good time for it.
Yeah, but we are actually still launching in the next few weeks there, albeit in a slightly different way.
So how are your freight, how are your export issues proceeding? Are you managing products out?
Improved. Yeah, obviously all the aircraft are grounded. We typically sea freight, but the problem is all that air freight was then moving into the sea, so they were bumping, and it was becoming more challenging than normal. But it goes back to a team. Honestly, I've had nothing to do with it. I've just got two BAM logistics people who've just been ensuring that our product gets where it needs to go. And in fairness, the New Zealand government has been working really hard with partners to ensure that those links are a little bit stronger, and it just continues to improve.
Are you changing your methods? Like, is it going by sea, or what is happening really to get it out?
Yeah. We typically ship to retailers, in the UK, States, or whatever, or to our new warehouse in the United States via sea. We've just opened our own 3PL in the States so that we can service our direct-to-consumer clients from America easier. So yes and no. It's only changed in that it's probably a little bit harder to work, but still using the same methods. Far less air freight though for those small orders.
Yeah, and James, you're right across America and Europe as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so we opened office in Reston in DC. When was this? Back in April last year. We've now built up a team now solely running the US landscape, and also we opened office in London in January this year, or January this year. We've had a presence in Europe for since 2017, end of 2017. but we've made the call to step in and manage the brand from our side rather than handing it onto too many third parties, just to make sure that the brand, everything that we're doing from a development and product side is actually clearly defined and clearly executed out to the consumer or the distribution model as well. So we found a few headaches along the way, and shipping's going to be the challenge in the next sort of 6 to 12, with the shortness of containers and things that are happening out of different regions. But we're just dealing with what we've got.
Yeah. So yes, of course, you manufacture offshore too, which is with bamboo, which is a different. Because Brianne, all of your manufacturing is still in New Zealand, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but different opportunity, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. So we made the conscious step to make sure that our where Brianne's got obviously components where she's making them in New Zealand, and obviously that's the most sustainable way to make it. It's like with us, it's where we're making the product is the closest route to the substrate. But since obviously COVID, we're also looking into further expanding different fabric types and different substrates to work with wound care products that will actually, once again, compost. It makes it easier for us to shift our manufacturing into a regional type arrangement. And it's not so much dependent on growing bamboo fibre at a 2 metre yield, higher yields to make it cheaper to farm and more ethical. So with these other fabrics that are coming into the mix now, and components that we can actually get further, cost savings on, and because ultimately you're governed by what the consumer will buy the product for, and it's what you have to do is work the engine behind that to make, we can make profit after we've delivered a solution that actually people are going to buy. So that's what we're in charge of now, trying to find different substrates and different components to alleviate different regions of manufacture.
Yeah, great. Well, actually, that might be a nice point to cross from Brianne to you, James. Is there any last comments, Brianne, before we sign out and say thank you very much?
I don't think so. No, I hope it was useful for some of you. And if you have any questions, I'm reasonably easy to contact. So feel free to.
Thank you so much. That was amazing, an incredible insight, and I thought I knew a lot about Ethique. So thank you so much for your time and for getting up so early, and to all the attendees that came as well. And we'll send you questions or anything that comes by. This, of course, will also be posted to YouTube, so that'll give people a broader opportunity to interact. Thank you so much, and we'll hand over to James. Actually, I'm just